This is your time. This is your place. You're listening to Flashback with Wes Britton on the Artist First Radio Network.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our next exciting episode of our 70th anniversary James Bond Anniversary Avalanche with the crown jewel of our episode so far. I'm sitting here with Luciana Paluzzi, and we're going to talk about, well, who knows? We're going to get started on all kinds of things. And I want to throw a curveball to you, Luciana. My web designer heard I was going to be talking to you, and she wanted to make sure I asked you if you have any memories or thoughts about Muscle Beach Party.
Yes. I had such a great time doing that. It was so much fun. We shot it here in Malibu, in California, and I thought that the director was a wonderful director, and it was such a fun picture to do, and we had so many fans around on the beach while we were shooting. It was just like overwhelming. But yeah, I have memories.
I don't know why she asked about that in particular, but what the heck. Well, I want to go back in time, too, to a little short-lived series you were on that's called Five Fingers, which was kind of a pre-Spy Boom kind of spy show, and you had a role that was very different from Fiona Volpe. You worked with David Hedison, who was in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea and The Fly, and was Felix Leiter twice in the Bond movies. Any memories of Five Fingers to share?
Well, Five Finger is the series that brought me to Hollywood. They never even tested me. They saw something that I did in Italy, and they just sent me a contract. And that I was put under the contract to 20th Century Fox, and this contract only broke after a couple of years, 2-3 years, because I wanted to go back to Europe, and I wanted to be working there, and but it was like my first welcome into Los Angeles, and we remained friends with David until he passed away last year.
Yeah.
And he was like a brother to me. I loved him to pieces, one of the nicest human beings ever. Still, I'm friends with the daughter of one of the producers, Herbert Swope, who told me one time, because I was complaining that we just were doing a shoot where we are in the jungle, and I said, don't you think, I said, that I shouldn't have any makeup on or lipstick? I mean, after all, we've been in the jungle, and why am I wearing lipstick? He said, no way. He said, you have to look like a star no matter where you are at that moment. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, I love to do the series, and our only problem, it didn't last longer.
No.
Is because we were against the two top-rated shows in the country, Afghan with Travel and Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
And we were smack against the 2 half-an hours with an hour show, and that was already like a new thing because there weren't very many hour shows at the time. So we had the bad luck of being put in that spot. I am sure that if we were in another time slot, we would have been doing the show for many, many more years because it had a lot of fans.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, but too bad.
It's got a lot of legs to it. I wrote a chapter on a book about it that came out a couple of years ago for a show that was only around for 3 months. The fact that it earned a book, that's saying something.
I didn't even know that.
Oh. Well, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I know it's out of Bear Manor Media. Well, my next question, we're going to stay back in time a bit, is you were on The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and you were in kind of the episode that they made into their first movie, right?
Yes, I have very vague memories of that. Isn't that strange?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it was just work for me. I didn't particularly enjoy. I don't want to say nasty things, but everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
And you cannot like everybody that you work with. So there are a couple of actors I didn't get along with, and Robert Vaughn was one of them. Not that he was nasty to me or anything happened. It was just, there was no simpatico there.
No chemistry.
No chemistry, no.
Well, when you look back over that era, what shows and what movies do you have especially fond memories of?
Well, we're talking now the 50s.
60s, yeah, 56.
60s, yeah, because I came here 1959. That was my first. I have to think back a little bit. You know, I remember doing a Tab Hunter show, and it was fun. Adventures in Paradise. That was fun. Return to Peyton Place.
Well, you did that with an ex-husband, didn't you?
Yes, with the ex-husband, and it wasn't pleasant because we were in. As a matter of fact, the producer insisted that we do this picture together because he was hoping he was a friend of Brett, he was a friend of mine, Jerry Wald, and he wanted us to get back together, but it didn't work out.
Well, we'll skip right over that one.
Yep, I guess so.
Well, let's come to the gorilla in the room, Thunderball. When it started out, you were being considered for a different role, the role of Domino, right?
Yes, I was. And I tested. I had already done a couple of pictures with Terence Young, and I tested for the role of Domino, and then I didn't hear anything. Went back to Rome, and I don't know, 2-3 months later, I get a call from Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman, and they say they're on a conference call. They say to me, Luciana, we have good news and we have bad news. So I said, I want to have the bad news first.
Of course.
That's the way I am always. I want to know the good news at the end. So they said, you didn't get the role of Domino. So my heart sank. And I said, how could there be any good news after this? And they said, the good news, though, is that we decided to give you the role of the villainess. And I said, but this is wonderful news. This is even better than I expected.
I'm about to say, I was like, it'd be a lot more fun.
Right, exactly. And the reason they didn't give me the role of Domino is because I had already worked a lot, and so my face was already known. And they said, we want to launch a new girl now in all the Bond pictures that we're going to be doing. They probably didn't know that there would have been so many, but they wanted to launch a new face. So they said, but we didn't want to lose you, so you're doing the role of Fiona. And I was ecstatic. So there you go. Good news, bad news.
That was very good news because that was a great role for you. You were absolutely perfect in that role.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I have to imagine you really enjoyed your time on set.
I did. I did because Terence, who, in my opinion, is James Bond.
Yeah, you're not the only one to say that.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was the one that had all the little touches. With Sean, he would tell him, things that were just perfect. He created the character and did it so well. And in real life, Terence was like a bon vivant. They say, how do you say bon vivant in English?
That's it. That's the right term.
We use it in England.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Bon vivant. Right. So when we were doing Thunderball, for instance, at night we had a lot of night shooting. There would be a beautiful white tent put on the beach with a long table with candles and beautiful chairs, and the champagne was flowing, and that was, usually they tell you, they say go to the cafeteria and get a tray, more or less,
Yeah.
And when you're out on location, not everything is easy. When you're on the set, it's different. You have your own trailer or whatever, but when you're out and you're on a jungle or you're on a beach, there is not such a thing. But he created this atmosphere where everything was easy, everything was beautiful, and it's, something that I remember with great fondness. I loved Terence. He was like my father, and to the point. And please stop me when you've heard something that I've said probably 1,000 times.
Well, but the audience, I got to think about them.
I don't know if you know that Terence came and gave me away to my husband.
No, I didn't know that.
43 years. Okay, so.
I did know that you'd worked with him multiple times.
Yeah, I did 3 pictures with him. So, No Time to Die, actually more. The Klansman, and the other one was The Amazons. I have to remember the title. This is so long ago. Yeah, I did 3 pictures with him before. I did 2 before and 1 after. The Klansman came after, I think. I don't have the dates exactly, but I can give them to you. Anyway, he was like my dad. We had a great relationship. And when I got married to Michael in 1979, he was shooting a movie in Rome, Terence, called Inchon. And he left the set on a Saturday to come in to New York and give me away to Michael, and left Sunday to go back to be on the set on Monday morning. That's the rapport that we had.
Yeah.
We stayed friends practically until the day he died. I hadn't seen him in the last year. He was living in the south of France, above Cannes, in a hill above Cannes. And we just adored each other. And I don't think there is one actor that has worked with him that has a bad word to say about him, ever. Everybody loved Terence. He was generous, he was giving, he was like really an impeccable gentleman.
Well, who else from the Bond set do you have particular memories of you'd care to share?
I don't know.
Okay, well, okay.
Many at the time, but yeah. Well, it just I can't think of anything right now.
Okay, then we'll go beyond Thunderball. Did you think that role was going to be as career-defining as it became for you?
No, I had no idea, because it was the 4th Bond picture.
Yeah.
The only thing that I knew and noticed, usually if you're on a set and you're shooting a movie and the cloud appears on the sky, and all of a sudden the director of cinematography says, "No, it doesn't match before, we have to stop." And the clouds are there, and the clouds are there, and the hours go by, everybody becomes tense and nervous and upset. But Cabby, Terence, everybody knew that they had a success in their hands, no matter what. So even if thousands of dollars were thrown away, waiting for the cloud to move, everybody was happy, everybody was in a good mood, and nobody cared, because they knew that they were going to make money with the picture. They had already proof of that with the 3 previous ones.
Yeah.
So the atmosphere was always very relaxed and very nice.
Well, how did being in the Bond movie affect your career? I guess it's probably kind of a double-edged sword, if I'm...
Yeah, you're right. Because what happened is that in Italy, we had two kind of directors. The intellectual ones, Fellini, Antonioni, Bolognini, all of those were, very... they were intellectuals. They did what they did and became, icons in the industry because that's what they were doing. And then there is the second layer of the ones that did, the westerns and for some reasons, and I knew all of the Fellini, we were friends, but nobody wanted to associate a Bond girl. Not me personally. It wasn't Luciana Paluzzi. It was the fact that nobody wanted a Bond girl in a movie that was so cerebral, and so it didn't make sense. So my career that way turned down a path that was not necessarily the best thing for me, and I was stuck mostly with movies that were just fun and but nothing serious. The only director that I work with, but that was just before I did Thunderball. It was Lina Wertmüller. I don't know if you remember her. She
What was her name again?
Oscar. Lina Wertmüller.
No, honestly, I don't remember that name at all.
She actually even won an Oscar for, what was the name? I don't know she won an Oscar. I'll tell you again, not the text. I'll send it to you. I don't know how they translated the title of the movie. There was something about the beauty. I can't remember. The Seven Beauty. No, I can't remember. But she won an Oscar. I mean, she was a big director in Europe. Everybody knew her. You will look her up and you will see the amount of work that she's done. Lina is Lina, and Wertmüller is her last name. So anyway, I did a picture with her, and that was very satisfying. But I worked for so many years until I got married, practically the second time. And I was all over the place. I worked in France, in England, in Germany, in Spain, you name it. We went, to pictures in Japan and everywhere. I had a great time while I was doing it, until Mr. Michael Solomon stopped it. But not
in a bad way.
No. I'm very happy because the problem was that he was traveling a lot because he had a company, distribution company, and then they merged with Lorimar. They bought Lorimar, and so Lorimar became Lorimar Telepictures, and he was traveling all over the world. And when we met and we fell in love, we actually met in January and married in October of '79, and we have been together ever since, very happily. At the beginning, I was saying, okay, if I'm married and I go to Indonesia to make a movie, and he's in Cannes, selling the pictures and doing his job, I said, we'll never be together. So I really took a leap of faith, and I was saying, let's hope that this marriage is not like the first one that lasted a year and a half, because my career, after 2-3 years, they say, Luciana, if you disappear from the scene, they say, they forget easily. They don't care that you had a wedding and then you wanted to try out. You have to be there. You have to be present all the time. But thank God that the marriage worked out.
Oh, yeah.
Since I had worked for 27 years before I got married again, I had a good time. I had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful career that I was very happy with. And so it worked out. Everything worked out terrific.
Do you have any favorite pictures or favorite co-stars that you look back on with special fondness?
Rod Taylor was. I love Rod. He was just like one of the sweetest. So macho, and then just really a wonderful, wonderful human being. And Sean, I love Sean. Sean was, again, macho. But he had a great sense of humor. We stayed friends even after the movie was finished. And I remember going with Michael and visit him and Micheline in New York, in their home in New York, and seeing them in the Bahamas. And as a matter of fact, I just became friends with his son because we went to the Bahamas last year for an event, a Bond event, where they were celebrating Thunderball after, I don't know, the 60s.
Oh, I bet that's one of the Matt Sherman events.
The one of what?
The Matt Sherman events. He organizes all of those cruises and things.
No. That's not a cruise.
Oh.
They did a Bond reunion. A Bond. It has something to do with somebody that is president of the Bond Club fan. Long story short, they had 3 days in the Bahamas, and they reconstructed the nightclub where my scene is, where I die, where I get shot in the back. And they reconstructed all of that, and they took all the fans, the Bond fans, around on a visit of the Bahamas where the movie was shot, all the locations and so on. So it was 3 days of real fun, and I met Jason Connery, not for the first time, because I met him the first time when he was a year old, but he didn't remember me.
Surprise.
He didn't remember me. So it is married to a wonderful girl whose name is Fiona. So it's just, yeah, really lovely. So when they were filming this, all the guests, the dinner party, and they had me dance with Jason instead of Sean. And Jason looks, if you look at a close-up of his face, he looks a lot like his dad.
Yeah, I've seen him on some TV things or movies, and he does.
Yeah, he does, and he's a wonderful human being, really nice.
Well, any other favorite films of your long career from the 60s through the 80s?
Well, I did a lot of pictures in Europe also, and I was flying back and forth, with things everywhere in England. I did a picture with Alec Guinness called Hitler, The Last 10 Days.
I saw that. I remember that.
Yeah. And so I was doing television, I was doing movies, a little bit of everything.
So do you have a wall of DVDs, or you just leave them all in your mental memories?
The problem is that I have all the DVDs and the cassettes, and I have nowhere to play them. Because all of these instruments have become obsolete.
Yeah, cassettes are your shot.
Yeah, I mean, but who cares? I mean, I just actually found a drawer in a cabinet the other day. I was saying, what's in here? And I opened it up, and it was all the cassettes and the movies, and not all of them, but a lot of them.
And if that's all you got them on, then you got to hope you can find somebody who can transfer them.
Yeah, I will. I will, not so much for me, but for the grandchildren.
That was going to be my next question. How about the next couple generations? How's your family doing?
My family is doing terrific, thank you. between Michael's kids and okay, we have two sons, one from his first marriage and one from my marriage with Brett. The two boys get along fantastic. They just really are like blood brothers, even better. Sometimes, you're stuck with the brother that you have, but if you like the one that is not really related to you, it's even better.
Yeah.
So anyway, the two boys are really very close to each other, and Michael's son has three kids, twin boys and a girl, and I have my son Christian as a boy and a girl. So the whole family gets along, everybody's happy, and now the grandson, my grandson from Christian's marriage, my grandson is at Emerson College.
Uh-huh.
So they're all studying, they're all doing well, they're all happy, thank God, and I'm knocking on wood.
So things turned out pretty well for Vienna Volpe.
Yes, I'm not complaining, I really am not. And I still am like very active, I move around, I don't think I look the age I am. It's just I have good genes.
That helps.
I kept my figure. I can still wear things that I wore like 10 years ago that are there. I put them on. Maybe I should throw it out. No, it looks beautiful. Why? I only wore it once. And it fits. So, I have no complaints.
Any chance of you sitting down and writing a memoir?
No. I was not enough of a, such a huge name to have people really want to know.
You've had quite a varied career. There's a lot of places and people you've been that, don't sell yourself short.
No, I understand, but I get my satisfaction. Sometimes I go to do some autograph shows, and then I devolve the money. I have my favorite animal charities. That's where the money goes, and but it's also a very selfish reason. I go to these shows, and I'm only 5'3" because I think I lost like an inch since I was young, but I come out of there and I'm 6 foot tall. Because it's so wonderful. The people come to you with such love, and they're so warm, and they make you feel better. So I really enjoy doing these autograph shows and getting close to the fans and talking to them, and it's wonderful.
I had wanted to see you at the one in Williamsburg, but then I got sick and couldn't go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still alive.
Oh, yeah.
We still have time.
Yeah, that's true. More shows, I'm sure.
Well, the next thing I'm doing is going to be in London.
Okay.
There is a friend of ours that has just started the English Bond Club. Believe it or not, there was not one existing. There is one in France, one in Germany, one in Switzerland, you name it, but not in England where it all started.
Oh, that's strange.
And it is strange. And he's doing a charity event. Anything he does,
I think I've heard about
this. Most of the money goes to UNICEF. And he's doing something on a huge ship on July 8th. So I'm going to go for that. And there is also Saturday, Sunday, there is also a autograph show in England, in London. So that will be the next one I do. But that's a little bit. Where do you live?
I live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh, it's a little bit far from London.
Yeah, I've never been overseas, to be honest.
Never?
Never. Don't have the money to. I used to be a college professor, and we just didn't bring home the bacon to, go overseas. It's just, and I'd love to go to England. I just love it.
And what about Italy?
Yeah, I would love to go to Italy. My wife is Italian, half Italian.
Really?
Yes, yeah, she would love to go to Italy and go to places from her family's heritage.
Yeah, it's too bad. You have to find a way. Thank God that now the prices went up terribly after COVID. Now they're starting to come down a little bit, and there are deals to be made, if you find the right. But the thing is that once you get there, you have to be in a hotel or whatever, so it does become expensive.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Well, I know one thing I'll do. You want a copy of the Five Fingers book? I'd love an autographed picture. You want to trade?
Absolutely. Deal.
That strikes me as a fair deal. At the Mid-Atlantic Nostalgia Convention last year, Loretta Swit from MASH was there. And I was coming up and I was trying to tell her about the radio show to get her on. She got fascinated with my wife's blouse for some reason. And it was just some cheap blouse she got at Boscov's, which is a discount. And they went back and forth about that. And Grace was saying, well, I should have arranged a trade, an autograph for this blouse, but our sizes are a little too far apart.
Oh, well, I'll be happy to send you the picture.
Okay, I guess that was one of the crown jewels of our 70th James Bond anniversary avalanche. We hope you enjoyed the show, and talk to you next time.
And as listeners to Dave White Presents know, we've been having a lot of fun with James Bond over the years. Vic Flick was on our very first show back in August 2008. Not long after that, we had on George Lazenby from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. In fact, our third anniversary show was kind of fun because that was really the Vic Flick interviews George Lazenby show. And we've also had a lot of authors on, including Raymond Benson, who folks may remember was a continuation novelist for the Ian Fleming estate for quite a few years. And by the way, Raymond's got a new Black Stiletto book coming out there in 2013, and we'll tell you more about that later. But right now, we've got another novelist we're going to talk to today, whose name is Aaron Cooley. His debut novel is called Shaken Not Stirred, The Secret Life of Ian F I wonder who that is. Well, I see another take on, of course, Ian Fleming, and we'll find out more about it by bringing on Aaron Cooley. Hey, Aaron, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dr. Britton, and I love the way you said the title. Ever since I wrote this weird title, it's been interesting to hear how different people, when I've gone on different interviews, have said it out loud, but I really love the way you did it. And I'm going to go back after we hang up and listen to your Lazenby interview in the archives because, man, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, that is easily the most underrated of the Bond movies and is, I still think, top 5 or 7. And the book, I'd be interested to hear your take on this because I know you're an expert in spy thriller novels. The book is one of my 2 or 3 favorite. I still think From Russia with Love is the best book, though.
I would rank, Russia with Love number 1, On Her Majesty's Secret Service number 2, probably Dr. No number 3, and I'd have to think about it before I go after that, but have to think about it. But let's talk about your book. How did you get started on writing your very first novel based very somewhat, on the wartime experiences of Mr. Ian Fleming?
Well, in terms of me writing a novel, period, I work out in Hollywood. I run development for the production company of Joel Schumacher. And on the side, I'm also a struggling screenwriter. I've optioned a couple things, had some directors attached to some things, but I've never had something made. And when I noticed that so many more things were being published nowadays because Amazon has opened their doors, Barnes & Noble have opened their doors to not only self-publishing but much smaller publishing companies, and it's so much easier to do it as ebooks. I thought, this is a great way to get my stuff read that I haven't explored before. It was kind of an experiment, but I really got into it, and the reason I wrote about Ian Fleming creating James Bond, Two reasons. First of all, like yourself, I've always been a Bond fanatic, and I happened across this anecdote of one of the people Ian Fleming met during World War II, a Yugoslavian double agent working for both the Allies and the Nazis named Duško Popov. And Duško Popov went to his grave claiming, I was the inspiration for James Bond. Now, I'm sure, know there are about 25 people at this point who have been pointed out to be the inspiration, but I wrote this book just about this relationship between Ian Fleming and Duško Popov. But the other thing I wanted to do, the reason Ian Fleming's full name isn't in the title, it's redacted, it's blacked out on the cover, is I wanted to really have fun with this and write a book less about the true story of Ian Fleming. A lot of this book is true. 90% of the characters in it are real people. It is historical fiction. But I wanted to write more a book about a writer realizing for the first time that he could write a novel. And that's because that's the process I was going through as I wrote it. And so
well, you said 90% of the characters are real. Now, to the best of my knowledge, most of the really Ian Fleming's experiences were kind of behind the desk and in planning. And I know he went to D.C. But did he really go around to the Congo and Norway and all that kind of stuff, or is that completely all fictitious?
Well, no. What I mean by the characters are all real, Ian Fleming didn't meet all of them. The first quarter of the book is all people he really met that really inspired the character of Q, that inspired the character of Moneypenny, that inspired M. Those are the real people that Ian Fleming interacted with day to day in the offices of British Naval Intelligence. And you're right, those are real people. When he goes abroad, you're right, he really stayed behind a desk most of his wartime career. And since I was going to fictionalize this and have some fun with it, I, of course, had to get him out from behind that desk. And I put him in this exciting adventure that he didn't necessarily go on, but that was really happening at that time. When he goes down to the Congo and he investigates what the Nazis are doing down there, the Nazis are carrying out business with a man named Edgar Sengier, I think it's pronounced. That's a real Belgian that was really involved in the race for atomic weapons. Then he meets Werner Heisenberg, who obviously is very famous, and we all know him. The villain in this piece is Otto Skorzeny, which of course is a real Nazi. And finally, the big epic climactic battle of this book is a very famous Norwegian sabotage mission, which really took place. Now, what didn't take place is that a British naval desk assistant and a Yugoslavian double agent were helping the Norwegians. But I don't think it's a stretch to wonder and to think that perhaps those Norwegian saboteurs were getting some assistance, and I'll tell you why. I mean, the British definitely knew that this heavy water plant was key to the Nazis creating an atomic weapon, because the British had tried and failed several times to bomb that heavy water plant up in the mountains of Norway. So it's not a stretch to assume that maybe they had one or two people, or the OSS had one or two people helping the Norwegians. And in fact, we know that a couple of those Norwegian saboteurs were trained as SOE agents in London. So even though Ian Fleming himself wasn't there, it's not a stretch to believe that the mission could have gone down this way.
Well, it sounds like you not only did a lot of research in the life of Ian Fleming, but it sounds like you're a serious buff of World War II espionage.
Well, my father is a huge World War II buff, so I've grown up with that. I grew up with him glued to the History Channel every night, watching Hitler specials, and him reading The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which is a 1,000-page book about the Nazis.
Yeah, I was here.
So he is a real buff, and I'm just a novice. But
How did you come up with the persona of Ian Fleming, who's kind of rather self-effacing? You get little bits and pieces about his childhood and growing up and his competition with his older brother. But, I mean, you have a real voice for Ian Fleming. How did you determine that?
Well, I really just looked inside myself. Here's the thing. When you research the life of Ian Fleming, because I've read at least 3 or 4 biographies of him, he led a very privileged lifestyle. There are a lot of reports of him being a jerk to women. He went to the most, snooty British private schools. Well, obviously that's not necessarily the character that I wanted to write a full book about. I wanted to see how he and I were similar. And, the truth is, the experience that he was coming from, I think, is something that a lot of people from my generation could identify with, in that he had everything handed to him. His father was a World War I hero. He was, from this wealthy family that went back years in Scottish lore. I feel like my generation, that's where we kind of fit in America, is our grandparents and our parents, worked so hard and took us to this point in history that basically we're all born with silver spoons in our mouth and with everything handed to us and things so easy. And the real struggle of my generation is to find out that way that we can make our mark and we can somehow live up to the legend and the great things that our grandparents who fought in World War II and our parents, who fought for civil rights, or who, the great things that they fought for. We're searching for the way to do that for our generation and to make our mark. And that's kind of how I feel. And I think that's what Ian would be struggling with,
Well, you mentioned that you're having fun with it. To me, I suppose the greatest example that we're not reading history is the half-man, half-metal machine that you got there. Can you describe that character for the folks?
Yeah, well, the character is called Grouser, and he is he's an old Nazi airman who was shot down and nearly killed, but he was such a great commando that the Nazis had his body rebuilt with half machines by Joseph Mengele in one of his, sadistic laboratories. The reason I added that character, he's one of the 10% of the characters that's not a real figure from history. You got that. Is, we're reading, this is a very meta document we're reading. We're reading a report that Ian Fleming has turned in, but it's a report that he's writing that he's editing after he realizes he's a great writer. And so I imagine him going back into this, and there's hints of this at the end of the book, going back into the report and kind of spicing it up and making it more exciting, because this character of Grouser, who obviously is, he's the classic Bond henchman. To be fair, he's more like a henchman in the movies. He's very much, of course, inspired by Jaws. There are some things in this book that are clearly more from the Bond movies than the Bond books, just because I wanted this book to have as big an appeal as possible. That if you, obviously 90% of the people who read this are going to have seen Bond movies but not have read any of the books. And I wanted them to get all the inside jokes too. So that's a little bit of a cheat, is that this henchman between you and me is more of a movie Bond henchman than a book Bond henchman.
Well, of course, in all the books and movies, there's considerable amount of sex. You don't shy away from that in this book, do you?
Well, it's funny you say that. I showed up at Thanksgiving last week, and my grandfather said, I was reading your book, and didn't you listen to my advice 2 years ago when I told you to put more sex in your writing? So not everyone thinks I have. But, no, I'm very proud of the kind of sexual lust relationship that turns into romantic throughout the book, which is between Ian and a very famous female spy. This is another character that's a true person, and that's Christine. And she's a real person. It's not exactly documented how and when Ian Fleming met her, but that has always been part of Ian Fleming lore, that he met Christine Granville and based Vesper Lynd upon her, because Christine Granville had a nickname of Vesperale that was given to her by her father, which is, of course, Vesper's name. So she really becomes like a Vesper Lynd or a Tracy DiVincenzo, one of those Bond girls that Bond lets it go one step further and fall into true love. But of course, whenever Bond falls into true love, it has to end horribly. So it ends rather, I don't want to give away anything, but it doesn't end well with Christine. But she is alive. She's still out there. I wanted to leave it open that if I ever write a sequel to this book, she could come back. And I think there's a way to explore that in a future story.
You haven't written this future story, although at the end of the book you have I-F that will return, just like a Bond movie would end. So nothing's written, but have you got a sequel in gestation in your mind?
I don't know if I'll write another one. I've got so many great things I want to write, and right now I'm still just trying to figure out how to get as many people as possible to read this book. But I thought I would end with 17F. That's Ian Fleming's code number, his real code number from World War II. I ended the book with 17F will return because I figured even if I don't write another one, you have to end a Bond story with that, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I figure if there's a final Bond movie someday, which I don't think there ever will be, it'll still end with James Bond will return, don't you think?
Yes, I do. As long as they keep saying, as long as people go to the movies, they'll keep making them, and I think people will keep going as long as they make good movies.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm telling everyone with the new developments in the Star Wars franchise, with that getting restarted, and with the success that Fox and Sony have had, just restarting X-Men and Spider-Man, literally less than 5 years after the series were going with different actors. I really think that, for the next 20 years, every 3 years there's going to be a Batman, a Spider-Man, an X-Men, a Star Wars, and a James Bond. And those series are all going to have 50 movies before.
So do you think people who are going to be interested in this book are mostly going to be James Bond fans who are going to be looking for the inside jokes and that sort of thing? Or do you think this book has a wider appeal? I think, World War II fans would love it. What do you think?
What I tried to do, and this is the hardest thing, and I don't know if I've succeeded, is, create a book that someone who's never read or seen a James Bond movie can pick up and read.
Yeah.
And I know 2 people who have picked it up and read it, 2 bookies who've read this and said, this is fantastic, and I didn't even get any of the inside jokes. Now, the 2 people are my wife and my mother, so I don't know. I'm not saying that, this is a truly scientific test, but it made me feel very good inside.
All right, folks. Well, there you got your introduction. Now, it's going to be a while before we have another James Bond movie, since we just got Skyfall. Probably going to be a little while before the Ian Fleming estate gives us another continuation novel. So right now, you still have your James Bond 6. Shaken, Not Stirred, The Secret Life of I-F-F- by our guest Aaron Cooley.